I think it's a very dynamic space. Keep asking those questions. Keep pushing your college for answers. And I'm sure the next gen after you is going to really benefit. Thanks. Anyone else? I think it's time for lunch. Uh, oh, not before that. We have a lot more to do. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. Thank you. Yeah.
The student just asked a question. She said she's Gen Z and doesn't have everything figured out. She said she's Gen Z and doesn't have everything figured out. Don't worry, I'm 51 years old and I don't have everything figured out. So, thank you.
And I don't mind it.
One more Gen Z question. The thing is, I'm a student researcher. So, as a TA-ship, like as a teaching assistantship, when we go to BTech classes, this BTech engineering IIT students say that they don't like social science. They are here because they want to finish the credit, and they took intentionally engineering because they want to get employed as soon as possible. So I have this colleague who actually, she's a filmmaker and she studied liberal arts all through her life. But at one point she didn't get paid or she didn't get proper employment. Then she came back to do research to IIT again. So now she tells that she need some employment. That's why she's doing a PhD so that she can get some better paid job. So when she was talking about some of the job labels, she was like some consultant, analyst. So everything is some kind of corporate jobs they are mentioning, especially when we talk about this liberal arts. And after, even I'm going to be soon unemployed in just 3 years. So yeah, so I don't want to be working under those very strict, congested work and they don't give much freedom also. So I still feel after all this discussion, we are not very much equipped with like to incorporate the people who are coming from liberal arts and other such easygoing fields that what people say.
Yeah, so it's a very dynamic space that is there now.
Yeah, it's not as liberal when we come out of the courses. They are not giving a liberty.
I think the questions need to keep coming from Gen Z so that you're pushing the ones who are manning these institutes to relook at what they're offering. And those questions really need to keep coming.
Yeah, thanks.
சத்தமல்ல ஹேண்ட் மைக்னா இதே எப்படி பிடிச்சிப்பேன் So you have to bear with me. I'm sorry if you were expecting a glamorous public personality to stand in front of you. I have to disappoint you, and you have to look at my face for some time. Okay? Madam Kanimori is unable to make it, so she has some family issues, and therefore she just messaged me yesterday that she's not able to come today. So I thought I will just do the concluding session, or closing in ceremony as we call it, or valedictory address. It's not a valedictory address at all. I just want to just share the few of the key thoughts that went through the sessions. So when I look at Dunker's, Rohitji's talk, so the line that struck me was, let's become human first before become professionals. So similarly, between Venkatasalapathi and Abhilash Mail, I think the word that bantered most between them is prayojanam, right? That was one word. And Chalapati also said social science is not abstract like math, and why don't we and can't we talk about the immediate surroundings and how contentious this environment is in presentation of social science discussions. The next panel was the music and the art discussion, when Sangeeta said art is to be taken seriously. It's not a by the way product. Or just like I'll spend some half an hour with you every once in a week, and that is done, and that is not a serious art program or serious interest in art, and therefore, and they all talked about a structure and why they need structure, and the structure and free play. Only when the structure is established, only then free play can happen. So these were some of the thoughts that were there yesterday. Abhilash Villai talked about that education is not addressing all the types of arts, fine arts basically. He said we must have a wide range of art presented in institutions. It's not just the classical arts, it's also maybe the Kathakali or the Kutha. The Kutha artist was also there to represent that art is not just what we look at as classical arts. Art is any form. Just walking is art, speaking is art, dreaming is art. Anything can be art, right? So the art is an expression. So in that way, our facility or the availability of expressing in different ways must be available in education. And that was yesterday's panel. And in the afternoon, the workshops, I did not attend, but I knew from reports from people who came from the workshops that they were mesmerized by the 3 workshops that is happening. So I hope there'll be more today taking on. By the way, Mr. Sambandam said you must have the imagination is very important with art. Learning art, imagination was. And Vasudha said that we can understand the social issues can be presented through art. And she had fabulous paintings of children post 2002. Soumya and Siddiqui had a very interesting conversation, and I think most of it was also relevant to me in this environment. She said that how differences between myth and history, and fact and interpretation, and how local histories are written from unfamiliar people, and how there are multiple histories that we should have in our bags before we can talk about history of any particular environment. I hope I have quoted all of you correctly. Pankaj this morning has, the one thing was the Tech Vision to 2035. And I think that is the one which really struck, he said, can you identify with any of them? I was wondering what he's trying to say with this. He's looking at the woman with a big thing in her ears, or the one with the turban. I was trying to figure out what the intention was. And then it was such a revelation when he put up the posters next to it. It is very true how we have preconceived notions of certain people, and how, if this, as he said, this cannot be a person who is going to be a tech high-end person, a farmer, or a person in the village. We have such notions in and just from looking at it, we judge. And of course, he said that who are the people who put them in these pockets, or the other people who are not related to them at all in any way, no connection with them. So the language session, of course, the hierarchy of languages, and the mother tongue and the auntie tongue, all these they discussed this morning, and how language plays a very, very important role in our lives, and how, as I think as Apuranand said, we cannot no longer say English is a foreign language, because you see, we have all grown up with English as being a part of our learning. So though it is not my mother tongue, if I could say it, but the felicity with which I use English is definitely not possible for me to use it in Tamil. For the simple reason, I have not indulged with that language in the way that I've indulged with English. It is not to say that English is superior to my mother, it's my fault that I have not indulged in it. So every language has its own beauty, has its own nuances. And if you are not an English understanding person and you expect a Tamil medium student to understand the nuance of English, or, right, it's very difficult. And neither can you translate it. So it doesn't come across in translation. So the language has to be imbibed as it is. It has to be taken in. So that is why we say mother tongue is taken in, because it's coming from our environment in which we are. And if you are grown up in an English environment, that becomes your mother tongue, right? Like my daughter-in-law, she grew up in Delhi. She says, Hindi is my mother tongue. She can't read, and she can read and write in Tamil, but yet her innermost thoughts or emotions, she is able to communicate better in Hindi than in English, though her mother tongue is Tamil. So these things happen when you're put in different locations, and the environment has an impact in the way you speak and way you understand the language. That's my understanding, Venkatachalapati. So, of course, rethinking and bringing back the mainstream is a very challenging subject, because every day we go through it in trying to guide our students. And also, the fact is, I don't know how it is now, it should be changing. When you go for admissions in colleges, if they look at your cutoff marks, and if your marks is not okay, they will say you can go to history. What does it mean? Right? I want to do what are that? All political science, economics, history, geography, whatever, are on the last rung of that ladder. So who comes there? People who don't want to be there. So the students you sit in front of you who hate history, you have to teach history. They take it because they have no other option. So the students who come for these subjects are people who are not passionate about the subject. It's very rarely so. If they are passionate to come to learn geography, history, wonderful. But it doesn't happen always. So the fact that they have to have a degree at the end of it is all that it matters. Not whether you are learning a subject which interests you, or the degree that you have taken is going to take you forward. That's not a thought of most students, especially in backgrounds where parents are not guiding them into anything that they feel, or parents are not thinking through, and they have not the backing from the institution to logically think out, discuss with them as to what they like to be and what they like to learn. So, and also the battle of always there, the parents are thinking, what will the child do with after studying this? What will the career options be? Will she be able to earn a job? Will she get money? When the circumstances are economically backward, so that's the first thing in their minds. It's natural. So if I say I want to be, what do you say? Even if I want to be a painter, the parents are going to say, what are you going to do? Are you going to go whitewash in the rooms? That is exactly the idea of painter is. In the rural areas, when you say you are a painter, you're the one who's putting whitewash on the walls. So are you going to do that? How many parents have asked me that? Why do they have to do painting? Are they going to be painting everybody's walls? So they have no concept of what the art means. And so how will you justify or convince a parent whose child is passionate about art? So these are all conflicting, contradictory ideas that as parents and as teachers we encounter. And there must be, as you say, a liberal view of education in higher education when children with these different talents and different aspirations come to them. There must be a way to not only support them in what they want to do, but also enrich their knowledge in other things, that they can find an amalgam of subjects that will take them forward. I think I've covered most of the topics that we have discovered in brief. So, as a great token of appreciation for all the speakers who have come here and made this today a grand success. And I am just buzzing with ideas in my head. And there's so many thoughts from day one to day two that something I say, whether this person said it or that person said, doesn't matter. I have ideas in my head. That's all it matters. Whether I heard it in the first session or whether it is Sachidanandji said it or somebody said it, it really doesn't matter. I have thoughts, I have ideas which I can take forward. I think that is the way I look at conferences in this manner, because there is so much to take in. There's so much to have cogitate on, so much to try to segregate and see how you can apply it in many, many ways in the environments, in the school environment or education environments, or even in thinking through how these thoughts can be, in a way, very, very, very psychological, which is not always something that is written down on black and white. There are certain things that are in connection with, in relationships. All these things have come in play. It is not just what you learn and what you teach. It is so much of interpersonal skills and understanding human beings as a whole that comes into the learning sphere. So I'm immensely thankful for all the speakers and all the participants who have come to this venue. I'm sort of enthused to have this more often, if we can pull out sessions of this nature. So with this, I thank all of you once again for being here. And of course, I have to thank all our sponsors. I will be failing my duty if I don't. Kumaraguru institutions have been our great support. Also, we have Blessed Laya and Taya Homes Linens, two companies in Coimbatore, who have been a great support for organizing and helping us with this conference. So I have to thank them. And Kumaraguru has been on both days. They've sent their faculty as well to participate. And please convey my thanks to your principal and your correspondent as well. You're here in this audience, right? Yes, you're there, right. Of course, the kitchen team who turned out the food. And the teachers who have been up and about. A special thank you our tech support. And our admin. Admin has been working through the holidays. Mr. Vedan, Prakash, and Rexy. Rexy was on maternity leave, but she was coordinating online with all the correspondence that she was doing. So with a baby of one month in her hand, she was working from home. So with all this, that shows the commitment of the Vidya Vanam team. I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you so much once again. I think I won't hold you further. It's already 2 o'clock. We hope you'll have a good meal now. Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, I want to honor Mr. Praveen. Praveen sir was in the workshops. So, in a math workshop. Art and math. Is he there? Please. You didn't come on stage, so your memento will be missed. Come on. Okay, yes, my alumni, yes. Yes, I must thank them, definitely. They are very spontaneous children. You just call up and ask them to come, they come. Thank you very much. I think I have rounded up. Thank you very much once again. And to me. Oh, okay.
Just and a visiting faculty at Azim Premji University, Balaji Venkata Subramanian, currently the HR director at Dormakaba. He is also an accomplished speaker and a visiting faculty at various universities. Renuka Rajaratnam, Dean and Researcher at International Programs at Stella Maris, Chennai, and Anna Chandy, an educator, curriculum designer, and instructional specialist. We welcome you all to the dais, ma'am. And now I invite our teachers of Vidya Vanam, Sajila and Nitya, to honor our guests with a memento. Now let us look up to a wonderful discussion here.
Can you hear me? Yeah, good. So I think this is one of the last panel discussions at the end of 2 very fruitful days. And I think this discussion is basically going to be on where is this entire conversation of liberal arts and learning liberal arts in schools and colleges eventually going to lead us to. So basically the pots and pans, what is going to earn our living out of this entire education that we are talking about. So there's this common understanding among parents, students who are recipients of this entire education that this does not actually lead to a proper career. So, which is why the focus, even during school, or the pressure on students is to kind of go for STEM-based or science-based choices. But if you look at from the point of view of a student, it's a big weight, because post-10th, it is percentages that actually guide on what kind of subjects you can choose. So, and post-12th, it becomes even more of a complex, weighty kind of a decision because a lot of children don't make it to the engineering colleges. Then what do they do? What are their choices? So in that context, the first question, you have to give me a moment, that comes to my mind is this a myth that liberal arts education does not lead to careers, and what would your argument be to challenge it in a very broad sense?
Okay, good afternoon, and thanks to this institute for inviting me. I have the rare credibility of a talkative, naughty student in school, so when I'm sitting in in front of teachers, it makes me a little nervous. All right. Okay, let me share a story about a person whom I know very well to kind of answer your question. So this person grew up in an environment where there was a lot of focus on, I'm talking about 30 years ago, between engineering and medicine. Those were the options at that point in time. And this person was so very average that his mom put him through training on math. And the first day the teacher came to him, he had a blank expression when the teacher asked him what's the difference between an expression and an equation. So much ridiculed he was, but unfortunately, thanks to the ways of education, he scored 99 out of 100 in mathematics. So they said, no, there's some divine connection between maths and you, so you will pursue the first group, which is maths, physics, chemistry, and biology. So 12th happened, very high marks, managed engineering in one of the colleges, not so reputed, with a lot of protocols on discipline. So this person opted out and could not find an admission in any of the city colleges, was raised in Chennai, so he goes to Loyola. And once again, they said maths because you scored 99 out of 100 in 10th standard. He goes through maths. But fortunately, what happened in Loyola was, Loyola had a lot of electives, like, sociology, psychology, etc., which you can do beyond of math. So this person found a fascination there, joined up those courses, and after graduation, post-graduation, guy used to clear his courses. That's when one of his teachers came up to him, Dr. Naik, and told him, listen, you will complete this course also, but your heart and soul is not there. Move into areas which are your passion. So then he connects with sociology, psychology, and goes to Madras School of Social Work. 35 years post his qualification at Madras School of Social Work. Stayed in the business of HR, and here I am in front of you today talking to you. That's my story. So the moral of the story is this, that, I understand this audience is predominantly teachers. You folks have a big role in terms of shaping the choices. Today, I think it's fragmented. We just had a chat. Somebody wants to do a little bit of math, a little bit of social sciences, etc., etc. But I think teachers, if not for Dr. Naik, I don't know what I would be doing today. And it won't be appropriate to say what I've done in my profession, but it really satisfies me. And I'm waiting for my 5 more summers to go. I'm 55. To get back to actually working in this space of getting kids to choose, make appropriate informed choices, already working with one other educational institution. So I hope indirectly I've addressed. I think there should be a mix of both. The previous speaker spoke about this homogeneity, just sticking onto one side. Today in corporate, we hire, many guys at different levels. And one of the banners under which we do the hiring is, I don't know how many of you all have heard this term called DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. You could be in a specialized area of manufacturing your products and services, but eventually it goes to the common man in the society. Understanding and appreciating the way society functions is so very critical. So from that point of view, a pure play engineer or a pure play doctor, unless otherwise they have some perspective about humanity, may not fire. So, yeah.
I'll take this. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure addressing, and thank you for Vidya Vanam for having me here and giving me this wonderful opportunity of interaction. This question that Anna Chandy has posed now, debunking this myth of liberal arts. For me, I'm looking at the context. The context is the dynamic way in which education is changing. And this is because the way in which the world is ever evolving, global attitudes, local attitudes, merging and not merging, consenting and also dissenting. So these are ways in which the dynamics are changing so drastically that we need to look at the way in which there is a field of study, which is the liberal arts, and it entails multidisciplines, and how we may start reimagining our ways of teaching, our ways of looking at the concept of higher education or even the school education, looking at the way in which we develop the sense and sensibility of the student, number one, and then we go on to look at the way in which they have the ability to interconnect and interrelate various disciplines. And at the bottom, the third and the most important perhaps is to formulate their minds, to sort of capture them and educate them and shape them to be the humans that sometimes we lose it all out in not paying attention to the humanitarian aspect of our education, and us as teachers and students who are the learners. And in the age of AI, these liberal arts become a kind of a life buoys, where we need to rethink and reimagine how we need to have a kind of a firm standing and a firm understanding of being liberal and liberating our thoughts instead of just classifying them into this. Now, looking at liberal arts in terms of a myth, we have to understand that in India, how is this term, how is this title, liberal arts, how is it functioning? And if we have liberal arts, and if I look at it, there are a few, maybe 10 or 15 colleges which are colleges of liberal arts, or a few more which are evolving right now because it's picking on now. And we'll come to the career prospects of it later on. But looking at this myth, we have to understand that it's not the same as how some of our educational systems are in terms of arts, humanities, and social sciences. The cliched disciplines of arts and commerce and sciences, they are being pitted as like the arts and sciences part has been pitted as liberal arts. But we have to understand how different they are. So if you look at it, it is more so, if you look at, I'm not sure if I should take up names, but recently I did have a conversation with the University of Ashoka, Kriya, and Bentley universities here. And in terms of what they're doing is, they're making it student-centric and allowing them the freedom, the liberty, and free. And this is aiming at the outcome of having the freedom of thought to choose what they want. So of course, that is a difficult thing, just to leave everything to the student. They need mentoring, they need a kind of a proper guidance, which we do in our institutions. But here, they are not only given a choice, but they select across these multidisciplines, how would you like to do the liberal arts program? Now, that is one. We'll come back to it later. And looking at the way in which we are doing our arts and sciences in some of the Tamil Nadu colleges that I am very familiar with, and few in Delhi, it is what is prescribed, and it is largely traditional still. Whatever the sciences, whatever the arts programs we have, we are not still thinking out of the box. So the liberal arts are also, the arts are also not liberal in a way in higher education. And now I think the schools have also started to realize the importance of this arts program. We are not able to give them. The myth is, yes, there are career paths provided we take on to understand what are the prospects that we have. So I'll come to that later, but the myth is such that it is going to change. I won't say we are debunking it, saying that, okay, it's a revolution, it's happening, arts is the thing in the world. No, how do we integrate art? If it is STEM, how do we put an A in between the STEM, maybe dub it as STEAM education, all right?
Any thoughts to add to it?
Yeah, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me, Vidya, Vanam, to this idyllic setting. It's a privilege to be here. I'd just like to clarify a misconception related to liberal arts. It doesn't, as Renika was saying, it doesn't necessarily mean studying only the so-called soft subjects like the humanities. But the essence of a liberal arts education is that it marries depth and breadth. You specialize in a field, be it biology or economics or sociology, while taking courses across different disciplines. And the way the liberal arts programs are structured, it forces or kind of compels students to actually find their passions, which is ultimately what is going to lead to a longer term career, because semester after semester, they have to go through this process of asking themselves, what courses should I choose among array of offerings that are given to them? What courses did I find compelling last semester? What ideas do I want to pursue? What am I curious about? So this kind of introspection which this system of education affords students because of the freedom and flexibility that Renuka mentioned, they tend to be more self-reflective and not just go with the current of what society or parents think is the right career for you. So it forces that self-reflection, which, as like Balaji's case showed, most students don't go through that process. So the way these programs are structured, you are more likely to find a path that is suitable to you, and it is up to the student to craft a unique path. So, for example, I was talking to the placement officer at Azim Premji University, and he told me the example of 3 biology students, all majored in biology, but each one of them crafted a different path based on their interests. One was deeply interested and went on to pursue a PhD in integrative biology. Another student was interested in climate change and then worked with an environmental organization. Another student combined biology with data science and then was doing a master's in bioinformatics. So one field can just branch out depending on your interests.
That's really interesting. In fact, the way you kind of talk about these cross learnings that we get from different kind of disciplines that we kind of deal with, and then what it kind of pans out as a career later on, is something that perhaps a lot of people are not very aware of, which is why this idea, this myth that it actually doesn't lead to anything kind of goes on. I have this example of being brought up by someone who's like that. I don't know, my father had, I think long years ago, before the independence, studied in Trichy and had this, graduated with this interesting combination of physics, economics, and English as a, his graduation subjects, and finally went on to become a journalist and a film commentator. And I think that kind of an education that he's gone through helped him bring out or raise children in a very different kind of a way. So perhaps this kind of a thinking need to be translated to parents also, that it leads to different kind of paths, and the kind of pressures that you land up placing on children at the end of it is something that can be avoided. So to take the next thing to our discussion to the next level, what would you then think of the teaching learning processes then that is happening in the school? Do you think there is an expectation for it to look different, for children to make these choices when they get into college education and when in the context of liberal arts education?
Okay, two parts to this. One, of course, is this term being employed and employable. We are starting off on the premise that you know what is the right combination for somebody to go through a program. At the end of it, the person gets into a job and does the job well, takes on more responsibilities, and eventually superannuates. But let me tell you, the job cycles are shrinking. We had the Hindu Lit Fest recently, and during the kickoff session, Mr. Montek Singh Aluwalia made a very interesting point, and that was with machine learning and AI kicking in, redundancies are coming in very fast. So 2-3 suggestions in my opinion is that one, as teachers and educational institutes, you should constantly interface with industry. I mean, this talent actually feeds into industry. Yeah.
Lovely insight into how it pans out. One question that I think a lot of students have is, post this 3 years or 4 years of liberal art education that you go through in colleges, does that degree kind of hold if you have to go for further education, for instance, research and PhDs?
Absolutely, because a liberal arts education predisposes you to engage in self-directed learning, where you are seeking out courses that you want to pursue, and even within that, which topics do you want to research further, and the interdisciplinarity that it affords allows them to gain many skills in terms of being independent thinkers, persuasive writers, discerning readers, and these are invaluable regardless of what field you choose. So typically in higher education, they do find these students to be very well prepared, even if they change their fields. Including the deep learning that's required of doctoral programs.
Yes, this is a difficult one to take because students, yes, they most of them take humanities because they do have a passion for it and it appeals to their sense as well as their sensibility, and they are looking for opportunities to flourish in that in terms of the job market. And in India, it is difficult to appease them because there is a fabric, of understanding socially that it is the medicine and the business as well as the engineering that is the traditional way of looking at courses that are extremely successful, but that is also not, we don't see much of that. But there's a taboo in saying that liberal arts is something that will not reward you with proper, a pathway to success. This will take time. We can advocate, and we need to further advocate to convince the students. But we also have to look at the government or our other authorities or other ways in which we have to look at. Maybe the corporates, the business houses can come together, but they have to really promise flourishing prospects for those who take up liberal arts. At the same time, like as liberal arts is not just one subject, it's many subjects. And it's going to cater to any organization such a integration of many disciplines, and the mind that is developed by such an integration is going to add value to that organization or institution. So therefore, we need to encourage, but the whole system has to change. We also have to look at job creators, not what is created, and we need to break down that myth that it is not feasible, it is not economically viable to take the path of liberal arts, humanities arts, whatever you want to call it, social sciences. So we need to look at those job creators who will actually make this a flourishing prospect. More or less, that's...
Not from the point of view of advancing the education in the chosen line, but real life experience, what I've seen is, especially during difficult times, I mean, it's not a bed of roses when you're in employment. Liberal arts perspective helps people face these difficult times with a broader perspective than those who don't have this perspective. She said liberal arts is not the adaptability, the flexibility, and not get too excited with success and falling flat with failures. There is an element of balance. I'm not talking about education per se, but a liberal arts perspective, in the sense a bit of sociology, a bit of psychology, and so on and so forth. And very interestingly today, while businesses are supposed to be cutthroat, we talk about the poetic principle in business. We talk about a musical approach to business, especially when we are dealing with competition, etc. I mean, I'm sure that will give you an idea in terms of the scope and play of liberal arts, in terms of life at the workplace. In terms of education, I have a limited perspective.
So, one of the last questions to all of you. What would specific careers that are available look like? One. Secondly, one thing that came out was there are a lot of students who kind of are young people, young adults, who know how to make these connections and kind of look for these connections outside when you're looking for career choices. But what about those who cannot make those, choices? An example is, I love design, but do I also see a connection of design, beyond fine arts and design, to look at something, what we were talking about, Do I have a space in an organization like NASA, where I can connect with that? And where can these conversations happen, where children start thinking about that?
It's about jobs, so I'm grabbing the mic immediately. See, the thing is, one has to be opportunistic. This thing about dream job is a myth. You know, because sustenance is important, right? I can't wait till 35, 40 till I get a dream. I mean, how will you sustain yourself? So obviously you pick up certain skills, know-how, knowledge, and of course you shaped your attitude. Something, I mean, if you don't get a dream job per se, but get into a job which doesn't conflict with what you would want to do. And then, of course, you can expand. And, organizations today don't restrict you into a given role. Where you start is not necessarily where you would end. And, you're not wedded to an organization. You can always move on. So one, of course, is yes, I have an aspiration to be somewhere. And at a given point in time, I need to be very practical. Get into a job which is, once again, not in conflict. And then, over a period in time, try and, put the pieces in the right perspective and move on. I think that would be my recommendation.
There is a way in which we look at, for example, analytics. If you look at data analytics, today the analytics has diversified to business, to communication, to art, and several other scientific as well as art areas. So the opportunities are being newly created. So if you look at this, what has happened to agriculture? Why is it such an unfavored kind of education which just is not being encouraged, and there seems as if there is no prospects? What if we, as educators, look at it and promote that? For example, I'm just sharing something that when I was doing my research in Manchester, I was walking down the road there, and then there was a corner shop of books and beautiful research articles and so much to do with the diversity there. So there was a picture of MGR and Jayalalitha in the front cover there, and then I was very curious, so I just went and picked up what is it that happens in Tamil Nadu, which is so much known to us, pointing out there right in the front cover of that bookshop. So I just looked at it, the nexus between politics and cinema in Tamil Nadu, in India. So we don't have these courses, but there is a very, in South Asian studies, this is a big topic there. I came across this in Helsinki as well. The phenomenon of Shahrukology. This is something I never knew. I was prepared for something else when I was presenting my paper, and I had my colleague from Germany who was going to talk on this, and that was something new to me. And we are not trained to think of it. We've already looked at popular culture in an inferior way. We were not brought up to do that because we are educators. Okay, we need to go into the esoteric, those unattainable, knowledgeable areas. But we don't know what is happening. So this has to change. So why is it that in our colleges all over, film studies do not feature at all in terms of liberal art education? It's in some, but I see different academies, sir. Film academies are there. But we are not able to prescribe. I'm trying in Stella Maris College, media and film studies. And so there are takers. Is there a career to it? Is the big question that keeps coming. No, other colleges are not doing it, so we cannot do it. So it goes on to that. So the debates are going on. So I'm talking about bringing them into the mainstream. So liberal arts begins with that. There should be a newness to the kind of courses and the kind of disciplines that we need. And everything is related to the career prospects as well. This is a fraught exercise. Like I said, it's a total rethinking. It demands a total reimagining. So I hope with these kind of discussions that we have, we can take it forward.
Yeah. Renuka said we need to create the jobs and then the students will opt for liberal arts. But I think this is like a chicken and egg issue. We also need to change mindsets. And at a very fundamental level, the question, what kind of society do we want to live in, is something that cannot be answered by science or technology, by the STEM fields alone. And this is a very fundamental question. that is elemental to our well-being and possibly even our survival as a planet. Given the way climate change is progressing, do we all necessarily want to buy into this model of growth and more growth and just continue mindlessly while we are writing in our own destruction? Relatedly, do we want technology companies to dictate what happens to our jobs, what happens to certain fields? So when we, as artificial intelligence is making, by leaps and bounds, research is moving along. But who is there to regulate, and where is the ethics dimension to this? So these are all very important questions that we can't just keep spawning jobs, and we're also jobs are also being lost at the same time. So I think these are very elemental questions that we need to ask. And just look at this place we are in, Vidya Vanam. I think if people just looked, if Mrs. Prema had that purely career kind of, that we pursue money and success, we also have a very narrow definition of what success is, which unfortunately the younger generations, it seems to be defined only in monetary terms. So that's another thing we need to question. We want to create people who have a broader vision like this, who will be able to create spaces like this, and people who opt for careers like teaching that have intrinsic value and meaning, and not just chase 6 and 7 figure salaries. I'm not saying money and is not important, but there is a difference between need and greed. And I think we are veering on greed rather than need at this point.
Thanks so much. I mean, this has been a very interesting conversation, talking about a very dynamic and an evolving kind of an idea. I think I'll just open the floor for some questions from the audience. Yeah.
I must really compliment the panel. And arguably, to my mind, it's one of the best panels in the 2 days from my point of view. And I think there's a wonderful kind of a melody that I found flowing from one to the other. That is typical of the best panels, So there is an understanding, intuitive understanding as it flowed. Thank you. Thank you. No. So basically, to underscore the truth that all of you uncannily also sort of stated, an intuitive understanding, an understanding in conformity with the liberal arts, which is intuitive also, as well as, for example, connected through web of knowledge systems. But I want to really put a thought before you. It has been really a learning experience for me. And since some of you referred to people in higher education, it's been truly a learning experience for me and some of my colleagues. I think with regard to the reinvention of the school in the context of liberal education, one of the things that needs to be done very urgently is the fact that school and higher education, they function as separate compartments, unfortunately. I think the kinds of reforms that you were suggesting, it will be best served if there is a greater mobility in terms of the college and university education and the school education. And I think what I am suggesting is, and for your consideration, is the invention or the creation of capsules, regardless of what is done across the board, capsules, so that the students at the school level can smoothly and effortlessly transition to the college and the university level. I have in mind, for example, visiting professors program. Today, the visiting professors program, as a mark of achievement and value in higher education, is among the universities in India and abroad. Why not, for example, visiting professors program? The best of the professors in the liberal arts go down to the colleges and the schools and they teach there, so that they can sensitize and they can also learn, and the benefits, the insights that each one of them gets is plowed back and invested into both higher education as well as school education. So that is a thought for all of you to consider.
Thank you, Professor. We'll take that.
Yeah, There are a few models, but I don't think it's being practiced to this extent. For example, Azim Premji has a school in the university campus. IIT in Chennai also has a school within the campus, but there isn't necessarily that cross communication which we need, and the interaction. Yes, absolutely, that would be wonderful for both parties. Yeah.
Three questions, ma'am. So one, as a teacher, yes, ma'am. Okay. All these questions, I know utility was questioned a lot, but as teachers, we get students, we get parents who ask connected questions. So it's an attempt to articulate those questions. So first of all, ma'am interestingly spoke about a biology program in which students chose different paths. So as a teacher, when a student brings a prospectus to me, or when a student asks, sir, how is this course? So how do I identify whether an institution is a liberal education space? So, yeah, so that's one. Should I ask the other two questions, or should it be one by one?
By looking at the prospectus and the syllabus and how they offer the courses, whether the student is offered choice. Basically, choice is integral to a liberal education. So how much choice is there? Can you switch majors in between if you are unhappy with? So asking those questions would tell you how how flexible the college is, basically.
So, ma'am, is it in the degree, is it in the learning experience, or is it in the dining table conversations? Like, so where is the liberal aspect come from?
Everywhere, right around. It's the entire atmosphere. Learning is not limited to the classroom or the textbook. That is again another myth that we need to deconstruct. Learning happens everywhere. Learning can happen in the home. It can happen in the garden. It can happen while watering a plant. So learning happens all the time if you have a curious mind and you are open and willing to look. So that is the kind of mindset we need to foster.
Okay. So the second issue is one of communication. So when parents or students talk about JEE or NEET, so paiyan enna avan, paiyan doctor avan, paiyan engineer, that gives them a very definite picture, you know. But when we talk to them about Ashoka University's program,
some of them may be entrepreneurs, but you know, constant interaction is very well. We've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm sure we made some headway, but I think that should accelerate even more in the days ahead. Point number one. Point number two is if a child makes a choice of certain subjects, be rest assured that may not be relevant beyond a certain point in time. Now, once again, the best example is your own life story. I head HR for a company across Asia Pacific. It's a big job per se. And I went through my licensing on coaching less than 2.5, 3 years ago, which is a 1.5 hours of online test. Doing it in Chennai with the AC on, I was sweating because I had to score 80% marks to complete the certification. And I don't want to go back to my organization and tell them I failed the exam. The fear of failure grows up with age. I thought we take it easily. So this learnability is very, very important. Today you like these things. And as it is what is taught in institutes and what exactly gets practiced, there is a gap. And once you go there, you fine-tune. And the second dimension is, I think from the parents' point of view, today, I think after the pandemic, there are many online programs. If a child is curious, I think the teacher should know what are the programs. Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, so many platforms, so many subjects are being taught. If somebody is curious, it will not be part of your curriculum, but just encourage them to explore those. So just to summarize whatever I said, there is no fixed even mix of sciences and STEM or STEAM. Yes, there is a starting point, but beyond of that, it has to be a lifetime of learning. Point number one. Second is, I'm tempted to share this story. I normally do it in my workshops. The difference between astronauts and cosmonauts, not much. They're all the same. They venture into space to explore new horizons, to boldly go where no person has gone before. Now what happens is when they come back, there is evidence, Sunita Williams, Kalpana Chawla, all these guys who went and came back, they indulged in a lot of philanthropy. And research has it that when you go out and you see the Milky Way, you see the big picture. I think that ability to see the big picture, and you spoke about the human side of any domain. I think somewhere in our education, the relevance of the different subjects, if the curiosity is instilled in the kids, they will become even more curious to learn many more things, and eventually they will carve a niche for themselves and continue working in that space.
Thanks for that thought. Taking the aspect of learnability that Balaji had mentioned to keep in coherence with the discussion, it is as teachers that we look at the way in which we actually shape the young minds. It is our duty, it is our utmost responsibility. In doing so, our pedagogical methodologies have to change. Have to change in the sense that we have to inculcate how they interconnect and how they interrelate. This is extremely important. So for them to understand from science, to understand anthropology in connection with history and with psychology, and you come to learn that they are there at the basic level, all the subjects. At the basic foundational aspect of learning, they all find a common ground, and it is amazing. So it is the newness. So we introduce the second part I would like to emphasize is the synergy of collaboration. Collaboration within the departments of the school, education or the higher education. So we will be surprised to see how some sort of newness emerges, and we have to strike at that creativity. And every time there are the research virtues of adaptability, of excellent communication, and problem solving, as well as critical thinking, design thinking. These are the virtues that we should connect them with each other disciplines. So all the disciplines should be included. Now, if you look at this wonderful artist, Pablo Neruda, who propounded this artistic expression movement called the Cubism, you will see from what he has created in a breathtaking way, the path-breaking, innovation there, where an object or something that is perceived is distorted and it's split in different levels, and where you invite a conflation of opinions, of contradictions, of perspectives. So there is a multiplicity to the learning. So the learnability that Balaji had just introduced, the concept, is something absolutely fertile and forever evolving. And the challenge for teachers is to evolve alongside and develop these conflating perspectives, enable them to think more and more and not be just narrow-minded or, dogmatic or fundamental. To move beyond that. So liberal arts is the key to that.
Yeah, so building on what Renuka is saying, I think a liberal arts type of education can be offered as early as primary school. There is an impetus in schools right now to grow more inclusive, to meet the needs of neurodiverse learners. And apart from that aim, another positive spin-off of this is that it helps students see connections. So to give you a more concrete example, I interviewed a teacher who was teaching 5th graders. She was an English teacher, and she was teaching them a passage on Tansen. And she found her students were not interested because most of them could not connect to this Hindustani singer, and it was a very dry passage. So what she did is, because she was trained to provide differentiated instruction based on students' interests, she divided the class into groups. Those who were interested in maths, those who were interested in science, and those who were interested in language. And again, giving the freedom to the students. You pick which group you want. And these are only 5th graders. And she said it was amazing the kind of connections that they came up with. One group connected music and mathematics. There are a lot of connections in terms of pattern and rhythm. The science group found connections between music and natural rhythms in nature. And the third group looked at the tonality of languages and music. So, as early as fifth grade, they were able to see these linkages. I think that's something that our educational system can emphasize. To add to this, if you look at two fields that are considered very disparate, say art and mathematics, they say the arty type, who is supposed to be airy fairy, if you look at the stereotype, versus the math brain who's into precise numbers and, accuracy. But there's a lot of commonality between art and math. They both deal with shapes, sizes, symmetry, measurement, and proportions. So if there is a kid in your class who doesn't like math, you bring in art to teach math. So I'm just saying this kind of differentiation, and then likewise, if there's a math student who's not interested in art, you focus on the mathematical aspects of art. So I think by being more flexible right from primary school, children grow up with this liberal mindset.
So is it a good time to, for professors and school teachers to kind of meet and visit each other's spaces to kind of drive this kind of thinking?
I think absolutely. I think we have a lot of hierarchies that were discussed in the morning, including higher education and like the high school teachers also paid more than the primary school teacher, and teaching primary school is as demanding, if not more. So there are, and then the division between the so-called soft subjects. These are a lot of boundaries and walls that we need to eradicate. And these are all constructed by us. It's not a given. Children don't come with these, boxes in their heads. We create these boxes, and language is one of the tools that starts creating these boxes. You have this department in this building and that department in that building. So yes, I do think we can have a lot more synergy between schools, universities, where children also get exposed to a diverse array of fields and possible careers that they may have. Yeah.
Yes, I quite agree that teacher education has to be addressed to be aware of what liberal arts can do to the students, and also take them through a different sort of training. Now we are doing FTPs, the faculty development, faculty enrichments. There are so many other teacher training courses and workshops going on. I think we need to introduce a little more change in that to bring about this awareness. And I think many of them are already aware. They've taken cognizance of this, and they only need a direction. They need a leadership to sort of steer this through, and that would what would motivate them to do is
grammar. Sir, idella padicha enna sir aagudhu? Now, idella padichanga, like there is a long-winded answer, but that doesn't give you the definitive picture that, an MBBS degree or talking to a parent, So how do we communicate about liberal education programs to parents?
That again, I would admit, is a fraught exercise, but the mindsets have to change. The change has to come from the parents to understand. So it's not just a student to understand, it's just not the teachers to understand. That's the easier lot, actually. At least we have spaces like this where we can train, where we can make them rethink. But with the parents, it will be related to the way in which they are investing in the monetarily in their children's education. So they will want to know the outcome of it. What is it in for the student, his or her future, and in ratio to what they are investing. So it is a very difficult thing, but as the world is evolving, I'm optimistic that it will change. The dynamics are there, ever evolving, ever changing. So the interplay of this in higher education or in the primary education, it has to start at the primary level, would have to point out that there is something that will be extremely rewarding for the liberal education learners. So we have to work on that.
I'd like to add to that, So this conversation is also about the, throwing back the question. At the end of it, even when you get in, the number of children who actually take on the STEM courses in school, and how many actually qualify and get into engineering colleges or medical colleges. And finally, at the end of it, how many actually get a job? That's exactly a conversation that we can have with the parents. Looking at what is there. You're pushing the child against their will into a set of combinations that actually doesn't lead to what they think as employability. So rethink about the courses. Look at different kind of combinations. Teaching, this was a question that I kind of struggled with my children, because when I was teaching grade 11 and 12, children they're put into the different disciplines according to their percentages. So I was teaching humanities, and I had this class full of disgruntled kids saying that history se kya karenge? What are we going to do with history? I didn't want to do political science. I wanted to do commerce, accountancy, or sciences. And so for me to learn up on what are the interconnections and what are the kind of things, possible career possibilities for them, if you're learning humanities, if you're learning this, and how do you connect it with what their desires are? It was a task for me, because it was a learning experience for me. So probably we'll have to start doing that. As teachers, we need to also dig up a little bit, do a little bit of research to see what are the possibilities in the market and talk to people about it. So someone who would, want to look at accountancy as this thing, how would economics or, a combination of such factors actually help him or her with a future career, is something that we need to research as teachers. So there is a lot. It's a dynamic space, and it's ever evolving. So the question is, how prepared are we also as educators to kind of handle those questions? It's a learning process for us, and a great space for school teachers to reach out to people in higher education spaces and vice versa, to kind of make this a more practical and a more happy kind of a situation. Yeah.
Just adding on one very quickly to cohere with what she's just said, it's about unlearning also. See, they all methods, whether they are working or not, and we have learned a lot. Those challenges have come across post-COVID, and during COVID, we have learned a lot from those challenges, the opportunities and the unlearning that had to be done to relearn. At the same time, the dangers of being totally technological, based or enabled totally by technology and AI and whatever is coming up. You need to create the sense and sensibility of the student. So the way we shape these students is the challenge, is the focus. It is the future for tomorrow, because look at the way in which they can become society do-gooders if we have to shape them through humanities and arts, and at the same time be extremely relevant in other areas such as commerce and science as well.
Yeah, can I just add? Do we have time? Yeah, I would also tell parents that the liberal arts education opens up possibilities, because the world of work, unlike earlier years, it's not you take one job and stick with it for the rest of your life. It is hyper dynamic, and careers are made and unmade. There are many jobs that are being wiped out. So this equips you with the ability to learn and upskill yourself depending on what the demands are. So if you look at certain job titles like AI ethics specialist, cyber forensic analyst, social media handler, or social influencer, these terms did not exist in our vocabulary 10 or 15 years ago, but they are legitimate jobs right now. So it equips you for jobs that are not yet been envisioned also. So there's uncertainty. If they say they're uncertain, that is a fact of life. The world itself is uncertain.
Is this working? Yeah. No, I think to address his question, I think there's a small technicality involved which sort of confuses most people. In fact, I was very confused till I had it clarified for me. For instance, like we have our education system in the Shiv Nara University, it is multidisciplinary. We have all the liberal arts, and we have majors, minors, etc. But the fact remains that when you enter the institute, you choose your specialization first, and then you take your majors and minors. Whereas, if it is a liberal arts program as such, you can choose a range of subjects to start with, and I think probably in the second or third year, you then choose your major or minor. So it gives you a little more flexibility before you opt for a final, path. So, yeah, career path. That is the difference, yeah.
So again, to just add on to that, the role of the professors, the mentors in the university then becomes a very crucial thing. Because again, with so many electives in the majors and minors that you have, what is it the combination that actually leads you to what you're, it kind of gives a coherent kind of a path and makes sense of what you have taken, the combination. So somewhere the mentors in the universities also make a lot of difference to that. The kind of guidance that you get, you're dealing with this particular minor, and this is how it kind of probably can connect with it. Those connections, when it's made by your guides, make a lot of difference too. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Hello. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Greetings to everyone in this room. I would like to start with, after listening to the talks and panel discussions for these 2 days, the amount of knowledge that I received here was huge, and I can see many people whose experience is double my age. So I would, after listening to all these discussions, one question exactly popped up to my mind, and I would like to ask it. I hope you don't mind, it's quite lengthy one. The thing is, after listening to all the talks, like yesterday someone pointed out that students are more and more opting out to universities in abroad. And someone asked, what does exactly mean by university? It is a multidisciplinary place where we learn multiple disciplines. And as ma'am said that we should have the space to learn all the disciplines. My question is, for example, I am a humanities student who's studying in a liberal arts college, and I have no knowledge about financial literacy because I came from humanities background. And we can see in many colleges, we can see in IITs and many big institutes that electives are given in arts, in fine arts or in humanities. In our, if I'm learning in a liberal arts college, why not give a major course such as, which is so-called major course, finance or commerce? Why not give it as an elective to us? So that we can learn, we can have the space to learn everything. Of course, we have the online courses, Coursera, but still learning it in classroom is something different. So why not provide it to us as a Gen Z population? We don't have everything figured out. After learning all these courses, we can still choose, opt out our career paths. So, and many universities in abroad are offering these. Like, I also have to satisfy my parents' needs, and at the same time, I also have to learn, like to learn my own subject. So, when this is offered in foreign universities, what you scholars think is stopping Indian institutions from providing these kind of things, because you can see one of the major reasons students are opting out to go learn abroad is that I can learn sociology, at the same time I can also opt out music. And not only that, I can take out 8 to 9 papers, which I only want to gain knowledge. I particularly don't want to pursue any career in that, but I just want to gain the knowledge in that. So I guess the whole generation